Hey everybody, Rachel Ray here. In every class for our very first cooking camp together, we're gonna cook together, not just us, but a lot of my friends. You guys are gonna learn so many great techniques. You're gonna have so much fun, and at the end, you get to eat and share it with all the people you love. And you know what I love? Everything we're doing together is gonna benefit the Boys and Girls Club of America and a brand new scholarship project. So we're doing well for others while we're making great food and doing well for ourselves and the people that we love. Thank you to all of our sponsors for making this possible. Game on, let's turn up the heat.
Howdy, everybody. This is where I usually make some silly announcements about weather at camp, what activities are canceled or moved inside, but today's announcement is on a more serious note. It's about our camp director, Rachel Ray. As you may have heard, there was a fire at her home yesterday. Her husband, John, and their puppy, Bella, all got out safe and they're doing okay. We wanted to share that with you all because we spoke to Rach and she wants cooking camp to go on. Thanks to so many of you for reaching out. Rach is very grateful for all of your support. Keep posting those delicious meals on social media after class, so we know it will cheer her up. And there's no better friend and teacher that she would want to teach than today's guest camp counselor. So with that, I know we're all not the worst cooks in America, but it doesn't hurt to have one of the best teachers and coaches in America. Give it up for the coach of the Rockin' Red Stars, Chef Anne Burrell. Hi, Chef.
Hi, how is everyone today? I don't even know what's going on. It's been a very kind of crazy, tumultuous morning going on here. But I'm thrilled to be here. I love this idea of summer cooking camp. I'm like, wow, that Rachel always comes up with the best ideas, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. But before we even get started, I just want to say, my dear sweet friend, Rachel Ray, I see you. My heart is going out to you from all of my family to your family. I am just so happy that you guys are all okay. We need you in this world, Rachel Ray. And I'm so sorry about your house, but things can be replaced. You and John and your new puppy cannot. So you're still here with us. So you'll get through this, and I will be there with you every step of the way, or for whatever you need me for. So
nice. You're so nice.
That being said, let's get on to the mission that our fearless, wonderful leader has put us to the task of doing. Let's have some fun. Let's make some turkey burgers.
Yum.
So, and if anyone has any questions along the way, please let me know. I wanna enjoy our time together. So
bring questions in, and also everyone, just so you know, we've pasted the whole recipe in the chat thread. So if you need to reference an amount, an ingredient, it's all right there for you.
All right, perfect. So the first thing that we're gonna do, as we do with so many things, we're starting off with our hardwares, or what I like to say are things that are the hardworking items, the base ingredients for stuff. So, you know, like this is kind of the foundation that we build our house on. And one of those things is an onion. So, you know, like, let's cut an onion properly. I've done this demo 1 million times, and we'll do it 1 million more times in my life. But let's talk knife cuts. They're so important in cooking. Accept it and move on. If you don't embrace your knife cuts, I mean, you're gonna be at a disadvantage always. But here we go. Here's our first lesson. So we have our knife. We pinch it between our thumb and forefinger and drop your other 3 fingers downtown. This is how you are the most in control of this guy. Sometimes people like to just shake hands with it. Now look, how effective are you gonna be like that? Not. And sometimes people like to put their finger out like this. I mean, if you're in boot camp, you will get a red finger. So let's have none of those today. All right, so it's like this. Pinch it between your thumb and forefinger and 3 fingers downtown. This is how you are the most and safest in control of your knife. Think of your knife as an extension of your arm. It's kind of like you know, doing the locomotive, you know, the locomotion, do like a locomotive train, like get into the rhythm of stuff. All right, so when we look at our onion, like most things, has two ends. It has the stem end that goes up towards the sky, and it has the hairy end. These are the roots. Look, it looks a little like my hair, doesn't it? So when we think about cutting an onion, we think always leave the hairy end on. And we don't like rolly things and chasing rolly things around our cutting board with our knife. So we're just gonna stabilize the whole issue. Anything that's rolling that you're cutting, make a flat spot, all right? It's a low tech solution. Look at, we're cutting the stem end off, and we say, thank you for coming, or just for today, I'll say, as an homage to Rachel, I will say, put it in your garbage bowl, all right? I always like to have a garbage bowl right near me, and anything I put in there, I say, thank you for coming. So we're gonna cut our onion in half, right through the middle, right through the hairy end, and then we have a corner in which to peel this guy. So take the skin. I usually like to take the first layer off too. A lot of times this is dry or damaged, it's not beautiful. So I just say thank you for coming and put it right in the garbage bowl. All right, so one more time, we do the other half. All right, first layer, there we go. Now we have two halves of an onion ready to be uniformly diced. All right, so we're gonna take the tip of our knife and we're gonna slice this onion to the back, but not through the back. We're not going to cut anything off. So like this. And all the slices need to be the same size, the same distance apart. Why? Because size does matter. So we have even dices all at the end. So look at that. All my slices are the same size. I cut to the back, but not through the back. And that's what the hairy end does. It holds everybody together. If you cut the hairy end off and leave the stem end on, your onion will not behave this way and it will fall all apart and you won't have beautiful knife cuts. So then carefully, we're gonna take the back of our knife and we're gonna pull it through one time like that, all right? Then we put the tip of our knife on our board and we just start cutting down like this. So look at what we have. Now look at all my dices are coming out the same size, but when I get to here, it's tall, it's tippy, my fingers are involved. So I just do a low tech solution, tip it forward, and then we just keep going in the same way. All right. And then when you get to here, tip it back. All right. And then you can just go right downtown, keep going. And then you just have the hairy end to put in your thank you for coming, or your garbage bowl. So there we go. All right, there's one half of the onion. Now let's do the other half. Take away any of these little sort of, you know, membranes that come under the skin of the onion. We'll just take that off too. And one more time, slicing to the back, but not through the back. All the slices the same size. Okay, so look, everybody's cut, but it's still being held together. All right, with the back of your knife, the end of your knife, just pull it through one time like that. I'm keeping my fingers on the top of my onion when I do that. And then we just go downtown. All right, nice and slow. There's no rush here. Okay, and then tip it forward. There we go. Back one more time, and then get these little edges. And then we say, right in the garbage bowl, Arian, for you. Now look at what we have. We have an onion. If you missed a part, look, it happens. You can go back and get those. But let's not try to have it happen. But if it does, it's not the end of the world. All right. So there we go. Look, we have an onion dice. Now, what we are going to do, we're going to start off by sauteing this onion. So I have a saute pan here. I'm going to give it a little coating of oil. All right, I'm using extra virgin olive oil. Okay, we bring our pan to like about a medium high heat. And I'm gonna toss my onions in there right away. I'm not even gonna wait till this guy gets super hot, all right? Because we wanna cook these onions kind of slowly. We don't wanna put any color on them. This is what's called sweating your onions. So you think about, what do you do when you sweat? You get hot, you let off water, and you start to smell. That's a good thing. That means we're developing nice big flavors. So we're gonna saute these guys for about 5 to 6 minutes. We're gonna give them a sprinkle of salt. Look, I'm in my mom's house and she uses a seashell to put her salt on. So we're gonna give a little sprinky dink or a seashell of salt. This will help pull out the flavors of our onions. And that's what we're really looking to do, is to develop nice big flavor. All right, so there we go. That's happening right now. Any questions, anybody? How's it going?
We did have one from Maria asking any tips on cutting onions without crying.
Well, everyone always asks this question. It's like this: if your knife is really, really sharp, you can cut the cells of the onion without releasing so many of the acids. So if your knife is really sharp, and if you cut it the way I showed you, it cuts down on the crying factor. Now, I'm just gonna tell you this also. There's an accept it and move on factor with onion crying. Everyone has, there's all sorts of ideas and stories of how to cut down crying from onions. And I would say, make sure your knife is sharp and cut your onion the way I showed you, and that will be the most effective. Sometimes there's onions that are really pungent and they just have lots of those acids in there that make your eyes tear. Sometimes it even happens to me. It's just, then you just got to cut them a little faster. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to use 2 cloves of garlic. So this is a bulb of garlic, and it's made up of cloves of garlic. So I like to take my thumbs and kind of push the paper off, kind of expose all of those cloves of garlic in there. So you look at, it's like all made up of those little garlic cloves. It's like a fun little clubhouse in there, your garlic clubhouse. So we're gonna take 2 cloves of garlic. All right, I'll save the rest of my bulb of garlic for something else. All right, so 2 cloves of garlic. So if your recipe says 2 cloves of garlic, it's 2 of these, not 2 of these. All right, so we're gonna put them down on our board, and we're gonna put our knife right on top and give it a little bit of a tap. And you kind of just wanna break the garlic and the paper, the skin that's on the outside of it. So a little bit of a tap. All right, and then look at that. Your skin, the garlic skin flies right off. Easy peasy.
Nice.
Okay.
Shout out to Lorena.
So,
Lorena said she's 9 years old and she learned how to cut an onion from watching you on Worst Cooks.
nice. Thanks,
Cute.
Lorena. See, it's a very good thing to learn how to cut an onion. I bet you're a rock star at it. Okay. So now we're gonna just cut off the stem end of the garlic. Say thank you for coming. All right, now we're gonna take these and we're gonna put our knife right on top of it, and we're gonna just give it a little bit of a bang. See that? Oh, it's fun. Get right in there. Wow, makes you feel like a tough girl, or you're badass. There we go. All right, we want to smash them, and then we're just gonna give them a little bit of a chop. Okay, there we go. Now, by smashing the garlic like that, what we've done is we've broken all the cells that are in the garlic. So when we add it to our onion, it will immediately give off all of its garlic goodness. The minute it hits that heat, you'll be like, oh, it smells so good in here. So if you want to be, if you want people to think you're a rock star cook, just saute some onions and garlic, and it doesn't matter if you're a worst cook in America. If you saute onions and garlic, people will come in your kitchen every time and say, oh, it smells so good in here. It doesn't matter if I've just eaten a 12-course dinner. If I smell onions and garlic sauteing, I'm hungry right away. All right, so my onions are doing nice things. They're starting to smell delicious. I can see in some places where they're starting to turn a little bit translucent. That's what we're looking for. All right. So what we want to do is we want to cook these till these get really nice and sort of loosey-goosey and soft, where they're cooked, but they don't have any color going on them. All right. So we're not looking for like real sauteed onions. We're looking for sweaty onions. And that's the difference between sauteing and sweating. Sweating is what you're doing at the beginning of a dish to get things going, to the onions to start to dilute, to release the water that's inside them. And so it really concentrates that onion flavor. And it smells good. All right, so I'm gonna let this go for just another minute or so. Okay, yes, good things happening. All right, my garlic is ready to add into my onions in just a minute. So I'm just gonna set this aside for a sec. All right, and then that will go right into my pan with my sauteed onions. We wanna saute that garlic a little bit just to take the sort of the raw bite of the garlic off. All right, you don't wanna be stinging with raw garlic. So if you cook it for just even 1 to 2 minutes, it takes care of that, but you still get that beautiful garlic goodness. Now, I have ginger here. Doesn't that look like my thumb?
Yeah.
Hi, ginger. It's like, hey, thumbs up. So I'm gonna take about 1 inch or so of my ginger. I just broke it right off. And I'm gonna peel this guy. You can take a spoon to do this and just rub the skin right off. Okay, just pull it right down. Look at the skin flies right off that guy.
Yep. We saw Chef Manit doing that, I believe, yesterday. Also with
so, I mean, you can use a spoon, you could use a peeler, you could use a knife if you want to, but I mean, a spoon is like, to me, everyone always has a spoon around and it's really quick and easy. So there we go. And this is nice, fresh, juicy ginger. So it's gonna have a lot of goodness to give to us. All right, so hang on, right before I start grating my ginger, let's take a little look-see at our onions. All right. Nice stuff happening there. So my onions are starting to be translucent. They smell delicious. See how they look like they're starting to be a little bit wilted? You know, like they're not just bright white onions that we saw when we first put them in the pan. They're starting to look soft and cooked. So at this point is when I'm gonna add my garlic and cook for about maybe 1 to 2 more minutes. That's it.
Excellent. Shout out to our buddy Molly, who's cooking along with us today in New York. I think she's maybe making lunch for her brother, if she's nice. Molly, we'll see.
Molly has a lucky brother, I would say. All right, so our garlic is in there, and man, does it smell good in here. So we always add our garlic after our onions. And if we think about it, why do we do such a thing? Well, I mean, even though we cut our onions really small, our garlic was even smaller. And if we start off by sauteing the garlic first, the garlic will burn by the time the onions are where we need them to be. So always onions first, then garlic. So, this is what I like to call a chef facial. Some people don't like some people don't like to smell garlic. I mean, I would take garlic and put it on my neck as perfume. Like no vampires near me. All right. So my onions and garlic are looking great. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna turn them off and let them cool down. I'm gonna add this to my ground turkey mix, but I don't wanna add my sauteed or my sweated onions and garlic when they're hot, because that can start to cook the turkey, and that's not what we're looking for right here. So I have 1.5 pounds of ground turkey. When I'm looking for ground turkey, I always look for the turkey that has more dark meat in it than just plain white meat. And the reason for that is just plain white meat turkey can be very, very dry. So if you have a little bit of the dark meat, which comes from like the legs and the thighs of the turkey, things will stay much more flavorful and the texture will be much better. So I have about my inch of ginger that I'm just grating into my turkey.
There you go, Asher. There's that little, thanks for asking that question about the white meat and dark meat. Hey, Anne, I think we're losing you on audio.
How are we doing now? Do you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can everyone else hear me?
Yep.
All right.
Let me,
cool.
yeah.
So we're continuing on with our water chestnuts. So slices, they came in slices, so we're just cutting sticks. All right, and then you turn them 90 degrees. How we do dices. All right, any questions? How are we doing?
Yeah, I got a question from, let's see here. Lizzie in Pennsylvania loves watching you teach people to cook and wants to know who helped you learn to cook.
Well, that's very interesting. I started cooking from a very young age because my mom was an amazing cook. And I grew up in a tiny little town. We had a garden, so my mom would say, go outside and pick lettuce for salad for dinner, or let's dig up some potatoes or something like that. But, so my mom was an amazing cook, and I always liked to cook, so it was kind of, to me, like arts and crafts, but with something to eat at the end, and so I always liked something to eat at the end. But I also watched Julia Child a lot when I was a little girl. In fact, when I was 3 years old, I went to my mom and said, Mom, I have a friend named Julie. And she said, you do? Who? And I said, Julie Child. I watch her every day. So, and for anyone who doesn't know who Julia Child is, she's the big funny lady that talks like this. If that helps, that might help you guys know who she is. But I loved watching her. When I grew up, when I was a little girl, there was no Food Network. So Julia was my Food Network. And she was the one who I always watched when she was cooking. But I don't know if I really learned that much from her when I was 3. So, all right, there we go. Now look at this, the water chestnuts add a beautiful crunch factor. What's going on here? We're just about done cutting these.
Nice. Hello, Zachary says he loves your show, wants to know, what's your favorite thing to cook at home?
What's my favorite thing to cook at home? That's a hard question because there are so many things I love to cook at home. But I mean, I have to say, I will always go back to my favorite thing ever, my tried and true favorite, which is pasta. So it's like making pasta from scratch, you know, when you start off with flour and eggs, and then, you know, it's you have the ritual of rolling out the pasta and kneading it and all that, cutting it into the shapes and things that you want to use it for. To me, there's so many endless possibilities of what you can do with that, and it just makes me so excited. But plus, I just love what you can do just with your two hands as, and you start off with things like eggs, flour, and olive oil, things that are just everywhere around, and it's your talent as a cook that helps you become a rock star. All right, so look at this. My water chestnuts are all diced up, so I'm just going to throw them right in with my turkey and my ginger. All right. I'm just gonna get a little thing to wipe down my board. Hang on.
Yeah. While you're doing that, I'll give a quick shout out to Lily and Stella in the Berkshires. Hi, Lily and Stella. Are you cooking today? Watching and then cooking? Let's see what you.
Hi, Lily and Stella. All right. So I have in here 1.5 pounds of ground turkey. I have about 1 inch of grated ginger. I have 1 small can of diced water chestnuts. Now here's where things start. Ooh, hang on. I've got now my next thing that I'm gonna add is about a half a bunch of cilantro. I love cilantro so much. It has such a fresh, unique flavor. Now, I know some people are not cilantro fans, so if you are not a cilantro fan, you can leave it out, but I love it so much. So I think it brings a lot to the party. So I just cut off most of the big stems from my bunch of cilantro. And I'm gonna get this together in a tiny little space, all right? Because we're gonna chop this feeny, but I wanna do this as quickly as possible, and I wanna slice through the cilantro and not crash down on top of it to bruise it. So it's like you start in a small space, like in your hand. We're gonna slice through long, smooth slices. And this is where a sharp knife is really important. All right, so there we go. Look at, that's one cut with our cilantro. Now we're gonna go, and we're just gonna go up and down. So I put my other hand on the tip of my knife to use as a pivot. All right, and then we change directions so we get everything uniformly. And if you see things starting to spread out a little bit, bring it back together in a small area. All right, there we go, up and down, quick, and then change directions. Pull it back all together, and then one more time like this. All right, there we go. So that's half a bunch of cilantro. We're gonna add that right in with all of our other stuff. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now, we have a lot of our base stuff. Now we're gonna do some super secret flavoring weapons, which we have 1/4 cup of soy sauce. All right, we have about 2 tablespoons of sambal oelek or sriracha, whatever kind of chili paste you can find. And now we're gonna add our sauteed onions and garlic. We've given them a chance to cool down a little bit, so when we put them in there, they won't be cooking our turkey before we want it to.
And if people wanted to use ground chicken or ground beef, can they use these flavorings as well interchangeably?
Ground chicken would work just fine. Ground pork would also be delicious. Ground beef. Now, like all this stuff that would go along with some Asian flavor profiles would work really nicely here. So if you're not a ground turkey fan, any of those other kind of ground meat situations would work beautifully. Now, I'm gonna save my pan that I cooked my onions in because I'm gonna cook my burgers in here too. Oh, look at me, always thinking, just one pan for this situation. All right, so keep it dirty. Now, remember how I was saying that I didn't love turkey burgers, or I never have historically loved turkey burgers because they get super, super dry. So I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, what is the opposite of stuff that's really, really dry? Wet stuff, isn't it? So just to give myself a little bit of an insurance policy, I'm gonna add about 1/4 cup of water to this. Water, I know, that's so weird, but it's gonna help keep my burgers really, really nice and moist. So we get everybody mixed together really nicely here. And before I start committing to, going into my burger factory here, I'm gonna give myself one more little insurance policy. I am going to make what I like to call a tester patty. So I'm gonna make it and I'm gonna eat it to make sure, and then I will be tasting my turkey burger to make sure it's all delicious, right? Because raw turkey, much like chicken, you must cook through to 165 degrees, so it is safe to eat. So our turkey burgers need to be cooked through, but we don't want them to be dry, and that's what water will help to prevent the drying out of our turkey burgers.
So I'm going to put a little bit more oil in my pan here and bring it to about a medium-high heat. And I'm just going to drop a little bit of the mixture in there. All right, so there we go. It doesn't need to look pretty. We just want to cook it and cook through because we're doing what we like to call QC, quality control.
Yay.
So here we go. We have a minute or two before that's going to be ready. So while we're here, I'm going to clean up a little bit, but how about some questions? What do we got? How's everyone doing?
Great idea. Tabitha wants to know, is there any substitute for water chestnuts?
So water chestnuts have such a unique, delicious texture, and that's why I love them so much. But another thing that you could use if you can't find them, or if we actually had a crazy situation around here this morning. My local grocery store didn't have them. Oh no. And so my mom, hilariously, drove to the next town over to a Chinese restaurant and bought a container of water chestnuts. So no one has to do that. If you can't find water chestnuts or you don't want to use them, if you take the stems of broccoli and peel them with a peeler and then dice them up the same way, you don't need to cook them. They have the same delicious, crunchy texture that water chestnuts do. And you're throwing a little vegetable in there. Oh, good. Here we go. Fire alarm happening.
We're really cooking here, everybody.
So fun. Oh my gosh. Look, it happens to everyone. Can you open that?
Even Chef Anne's smoke alarm goes off.
Kathy, didn't this happen the last time too?
I think maybe, yeah.
It might have. I don't know. Sorry about that, you guys. All right. So I've turned my turkey burger and my little custard patty over. All right. So I just want to make sure that everything is delicious in there. And when it is, I'm going to start to make a couple of burger patties.
This is awesome. This is such a good tip, everybody.
All
just
right.
to make note, we're not dropping. Yeah, I was just gonna reiterate how great of a tip this was, the tester patty, just a little bit, everyone. We're not making a full patty. You could do this with meatballs and burger patties just to make sure, as Chef said, that they're seasoned correctly. You don't want to go ahead and cook everything and then be like, oh wait, I should have added more of this.
I do a tester patty when I'm making meatballs or other kinds of stuff that I need to taste that I can't taste from a raw steak.
Yeah.
It's the only way that you know if things are exactly where you want them to be. You have to cook them and taste them. So, oh well, take one for the team. Huh?
Yeah. Awesome. And while you're back there flipping, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to one of our partners, Boys and Girls Clubs of America. Big shout out to Boys and Girls Club of Rosebud in South Dakota on the Sioux Reservation. They've served over 15,000 meals since COVID. Big high five to you all for your excellent work.
All right, so here we go. My tester patty is done. All right, so let's give it a little taste. Ooh, it's hot. Oh.
Good.
To me, that is spot on. It had just the right amount of soy sauce, so that takes care of the salt factor. It's got just a nice little bit of spicy. The ginger really comes through, the freshness of the cilantro, and the whole thing is so moist and delicious. So I think that we're doing a good job here. So I'm gonna go ahead and make some full-size burgers. What do we think? You ready?
Yeah.
How's everyone? Is everyone caught up to me? Any questions about where anyone is? How's everyone feeling?
I think looking good.
I guess that means everyone's good, right?
Let's do it. Yeah. Question from Amelia. She wants to know if you can freeze these patties if you don't want to make them all at once.
You can absolutely freeze these patties. You could freeze the mix and for sure, you can for sure freeze them, pull them out, defrost them, and carry on as if they were fresh. Okay, so I have a burger patty that's about that big. Just drop it right in there. I'm gonna do about 2 at a time. Mom, leave that open because I'm cooking. It's just so loud. I know, but less loud than loud. There we go. So I'm gonna do about 2 at a time. And then also remember, once you touch, wash your hands. Wash your hands before you touch anything else, okay? So I'm going to do that right now.
So just to repeat for everybody, I know the sound got a little muffled because with the power of Zoom, it's muffling out that sizzle. But Chef Anne said to make sure you wash your hands if you're ever touching raw turkey. Make sure you wash your hands thoroughly afterwards. And shout out to Christy. Christy's using jalapeno water instead of regular water. Whoa, Christy, that sounds delicious.
So I'm going to cook 2 burgers at a time. I'm not wanting to crowd my pans. I want it to get nice and brown. I'm not cooking them at the craziest, highest speed ever. I want them to be brown on the outside, but I want them to cook all the way around the inside. And I have a sheet tray set up that I'm going to do another batch of burgers on, and I can keep these guys warm in the oven. But while I'm doing that, let's also think about some bun action, okay? So I have my burger buns that I can put on the same tray, and I can toast them in the oven while I'm keeping my burgers that I cooked warm while I do another batch. Okay. There we go. Now, this mix for the turkey burger, because we added water to it, is pretty soft. So don't be alarmed. It's okay. So put them in your pan and let them hang out. This is also why we don't want to do crazy hot either. We don't want them to burn on the outside before they're done on the inside. So we are cooking them. I have my burner on like a little less than medium. Because I want them to cook on the outside, and as that protein cooks and burns up, so does the whole burger. So don't worry that they're really loosey-goosey when we get them in the pan. That's just the way to go. That's what helps keep them really nice and moist.
Yeah. And everyone, just so you know, we know the sound. We know the sound is a little.
Brown on the bottom. There we go. Look at that.
Yeah.
There we go. Beautiful. All right. Now, while my burgers are cooking, and I have my buns thinking about, let's be thinking about the garnishes for my burger, huh? Yeah. How would you want to sound like that? There, wait, I need to say. You can have your pasta patty. See, look, I love having a built-in taste tester. Did I do well? Mm-hmm. All right, good stuff. Mm-hmm. All right. So, now I don't know what you guys like to put on your burger, but I like some lettuce. I like some American cheese. Like when it comes to burgers, I will say I'm an American cheese girl. You know, it melts really nicely. I mean, I might be a Fontina kind of person. There are people who are cheddar people. Cheddar people are great. I just don't think cheddar melts as nicely as, say, like an American cheese does. So, you know, it's up to you what kind of cheese that you would like to use. But I like American. Okay, so I have lettuce. I have a beautiful tomato here. Let's do some slices of tomato. Look at that beautiful, nice, ripe summer tomato. There we go.
And while you're slicing some garnish, what do you say, young chefs, we do a little quick poll action. As Chef Anne was talking about cheeses, we'll throw up on the screen. We want to know, what's your favorite cheese on a burger? Is it American? Is it cheddar? Is it Swiss? Is it pepper jack? We'll offer you those four, and we'll see. Ooh, they're tallying up here. Ooh, you guys are voting strong. American is in the lead.
So I have some red onion here as well. Now I'm keeping this guy whole because I want to cut slices of it. So I took off the, look at that layer, doesn't look so beautiful. So I'm going to take off one more layer of my red onion. Now, if you're not an onion fan, leave it off. Or if you don't like red onions, or you know, you like a sweet onion, like a Vidalia onion, go ahead and use that. There we go. Now we do nice thin slices. Now, when it comes to garnishing burgers, I always like to let people sort of make it how they like their own. A burger to me is a very personal thing. So I want to garnish burgers how I like them. And so I let everyone else do that same thing. All right. So here we go, coming down the home stretch on our garnishes. So here we are. There's some onions. I'm just gonna bounce over and check my burgers for a second.
Yeah, while you bounce over, let's see those results of the cheese on the burger poll. American is the winner.
I'm gonna throw these guys right in the oven. Now, let's take a look at my pan. So when my pan looks like this, I'm going to stop. I'm going to give my pan a rinse, and I'm going to start off with a clean pan. Don't try to cook burgers on this type of in a pan that's got a little burn on the bottom. It's not burned. What it is the soy sauce and all the liquid that's coming out that's just cooked on the bottom of your pan. Don't sweat it. Just wash your pan and start over. It's not a big look. But in the meantime, I'm throwing these guys in a 200-degree oven. There we go. I'm going to give my pan a little bit of a rinse. And how about you guys think of some more questions?
Yes. Let's get some questions. By the way, who's putting pickle on their burger? Anyone? Vlasic in the house? Bread and butter for me.
There we go. And before we start cooking in our pan again, make sure you dry it out, because if you get a pan hot that has some water in it, put some oil in there, it will spatter at you and that won't feel good. All right, so there we go. One more time. A little bit of oil going on there. All right. Okay. Let my pan heat up a little bit. We're gonna add our next round of burgers in it. Okay, so sorry, Kathy, what was the question?
Question from Luke. He wants to know if you ever add eggs to your burger to keep them together.
For my turkey burgers, they don't need eggs. There we go, that one's happening. These guys don't need eggs. The protein, when it cooks together itself, it will just come together. It doesn't need an egg to stick together.
Awesome. Shout out here from Arwin. He says it's amazing that when you compete for charities, you compete for the JDRF, Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Arwin's a type 1 diabetic and feels good to see the representation.
So, well, thank you very much. My nephew also is afflicted with type 1, and it's really important to get the word out there about it. So this is actually a pretty good recipe for type 1 diabetes. There's no carbs in it. You can get it out of bun. It's sheer protein. You can find low sodium soy sauces or stuff like that. Or you could use other sort of gluten-free soy sauce substitutes like that. The bragged amino acid, that works really well too. So my last thing that I'm going to do for my first round of burgers, I'm just going to now make a little bit of spicy mayonnaise as a garnish. I like mayonnaise on a burger. And so I have some of my chili paste here. I have about a half a cup of mayonnaise. So a couple of tablespoons of chili paste, and we're just going to mix those together. So we get the creamy of the mayonnaise plus a little bit of zing from the chili paste.
A lot of people asking, you know, can they cook this all the way on the grill? Can they cook it all the way on the stove? Can they cook it in the oven? I probably
So yes, you can certainly cook the burgers all the way on the grill. And if you have a grill or a pan big enough to accommodate all of those at the same time, go ahead. But it's also just, don't be worried about working in batches if you need to. My oven is on 200 degrees. It's just keeping my burgers warm. It's not really cooking them anymore. So, and because we have the water in there, it keeps the burgers nice and moist. It's like we've given ourselves a double insurance policy. Like those. All right. Are we ready for some assemblage?
Yes.
I hope so. All right. All right, here we go. So I have a bun that is just toasted ever so gently. I'm going to give a little bit of the chili mayonnaise on the bottom of my roll. If you like to be a double mayonnaiser, go ahead. But it's also very important that we make sure every bite of the burger bun is covered, so every bite will taste the same. That's very important in the world of burgers and sandwich making. All right, what am I looking for? We'll just do this.
Ooh, shout out to Morgan. Morgan put pickles in the burger instead of water chestnuts. Interesting.
Wow, pickles in the burger too. I like that. So we're gonna give a piece of cheese here. Come on, cheese. Oh my gosh, my cheese is all melted together. We're gonna try to give it a piece of cheese here. Come on, guys. Oh my goodness. All right. Wow. This is what happens when you take the cheese out of the fridge too early. Hold, please. Oh no. Oh no. Where's my cheese? I don't know. I don't know where my cheese is, so we're gonna have unpretty cheese here, but we're gonna make it work. That's just what you gotta do. You know, we always have to think of in the kitchen, things go wrong. Don't sweat it. Just figure out how you can make it better. All right, so I have not pretty cheese, but it's on my burger. I'm gonna give a nice big fat slice of tomato. And I'm gonna give some red onion. Now, the reason I put the things on my burger in this order, I put the cheese right on top of the hot burger patty so the cheese will melt. I have my tomato next and my onions on top of that. The tomato will kind of melt into the cheese and it will hold itself in place. The onions go right on top of that. And then the last thing that we put is lettuce. And the reason we put lettuce last is because it acts as a moisture barrier to our top bun, so our top bun will not get soggy. Look at, we gotta think about every piece here. There we go. And then look at that. There's all the yummy parts. There's the turkey burger mix, there's the American cheese, there's tomato, onions, and lettuce. And I mean, so many yummy flavors happening in there: soy sauce, ginger garlic, and water chestnuts, cilantro, and I'm getting right in there. I can't talk anymore. I just gotta eat it.
Do it. Like is it Stefan or Stephanie cooking with her 3 daughters, and they didn't know if they would like turkey burgers, but they all loved this one.
So these are good, aren't they? And look at how drippy and juicy this is. Look at my plate. I've got to go in for another bite.
Delicious, delicious. All right, everybody. Randy in Miami wants to know, do you listen to music when you cook?
I always listen to music when I cook. I mean, I have a playlist that I call the fun list on my Spotify, and I've been adding songs to it for probably 3 years. There's probably like 1,500 songs on it. So
Always, it's one of my favorite things ever to get into the kitchen and to blast tunes and just be doing my thing. I love it.
Nice. Ryan in Chicago, what is your favorite dessert to make?
My favorite dessert to make? It's really funny because so many chefs that I know are like, oh, I don't do desserts and whatever. And I'm like, I think that's a cop-out. I think every chef should have at least a couple of desserts in their back pocket that they know and love. And I think one of my favorites is a Meyer lemon curd tart. I love lemon curd. I love like anything with kind of a shortbread crust. And then Meyer lemons are sort of a cross between a lemon and a tangerine. And so they're floral and they're, to me, the citrus equivalent of a smile.
I love it. I love it. Shout out to Ariel and Michael who are here chatting away with us, asking questions. Thank you all. Hopefully you're cooking. We want to see how that burger turned out. Kiera wants to know the worst food you ever tasted on Worst Cooks.
Oh my gosh. There's been so many. I mean, I've been doing it for 20 seasons, so oh gosh. I mean, there's one that always comes to mind, and this, I will say, I was doing with my good friend Rachel this season, and there was a dude that decided to take a can of tuna fish, add about 2 cups of mayonnaise to it, a jar of raspberry jelly, and American cheese, and then bake it in the oven. And it was just, I mean, it was horrific. Rachel has a thing where she will not eat hot mayonnaise. She hates it, so she wouldn't even get near it. There was another one where a woman named Cheddar made pasta with frozen okra. She just threw the whole block of frozen okra in there, so it was like a silly black, like sort of swamp color already, but it had so much water in it from all the ice from the frozen okra. Then she put in 2 cans of whole sardines that have the bones in it and everything. And I think black beans might have been in there, so it was even a worse color. And then she topped it off with hot dogs that she cooked in a toaster oven. I never quite understood that one. It was horrific to look at. I mean, the sardines still all have the bones and everything. I mean, it was a disaster.
Let's just do 2 more quick ones. One from Will from Connecticut wants to know the last thing you cooked.
Aside from this turkey burger?
Yes.
The last thing I cooked. I made a delicious roasted chicken and roasted potato dinner the other night, like 2 nights ago. And I mean, I love a roasted chicken that has nice crispy, crusty skin and with the pan drippings and stuff. I mean, when it comes to a roasted chicken, I'm very old school and I love it.
Amazing. And then last one here from Jenna cooking along in Baltimore. She was wondering, we'll end with this one piece of advice you have for young chefs like us. What do you think is the most important tip you give the chefs on Worst Cooks that might apply to us? Thank you. Thanks for doing this. Bon appetit, she says.
Oh, how sweet. Well, you know what? This question harkens me back to when I was a kid, and my mother would give me directions all the time about, before you start cooking anything, read the recipe from start to finish so you know what you're doing. Get out all of the ingredients and the equipment that you need so you make sure you have everything, and then start cooking. It's like the mise en place method to a T. My mother has been telling me that for years and years and years, because also when I was a little kid, I used to get so excited to cook things that I would just start throwing all the ingredients. I would just go right down the list of ingredients and start throwing everything all together. And of course, that's never or rarely what you need to do. So I messed up things a lot. She'd be like, oh my God, you did it again. So every time I hear myself say, read your recipe before you start, get out all the ingredients and make sure you have everything, I feel like my mother.